Are you a creative person who has a hard time setting goals? And what the heck are intrinsic and extrinsic goals? Well, in this week's Motivational Creative Career Motivation of the Week, we are going to find out. By the way, this is a segment from the Carl King podcast. If you enjoy this video, remember to like, subscribe, and send us burritos. If you are a creative career person like me, you probably have goals of some sort, or at least things that you consider to be goals. And if you don't, it can be hard to get motivated. You might feel like you're floundering, like, why am I doing this? Am I doing enough? Or what should I be doing right now instead? Over the past 30 years, I've released a lot of projects into the world. And some of them got attention, and some didn't. Some of them had specific goals, and some of them I simply did for the heck of it. And as the years go on, I set different goals for each project. And here's how I think about it. I'm going to use publishing a book as my example here, but it applies to any other type of creative endeavor like recording an album or making a documentary or smearing mustard on your face and rolling around under the tables at Denny's. Because, hey, that's an important performance art statement. So let's first differentiate between intrinsic and extrinsic goals. Intrinsic goals are about achieving the primary results of doing the creative work itself. Basically, it's enjoying the process, and that's whether or not you release it to the world. It's an end in itself. For example, I want to write a book because writing makes me happy, and it would feel good to have completed it. And it's totally fine if those are the only goals you want to have. Or honestly, it's okay to have no goals in life, I think. I mean, other than eating and breathing and taking a shower. At least do those three things. Now, on the other hand, extrinsic goals have more to do with achieving secondary results. Like, I want my book to make me rich and or famous, allow me to date models, or buy at least one social media company and ruin it. And some will argue against having extrinsic goals at all, but I'm not one of them. I think that can be kind of a cop-out, because the world is full of artists who say, I hate marketing myself. And they believe that they don't need to go out and create an audience, that if they simply do what they love, they'll succeed. But the odds are against them. In The Art of Thinking Clearly, Rolf Dobelli has a chapter on something called survivorship bias. Quote, in daily life, because triumph is made more visible than failure, you systematically overestimate your chances of succeeding. Behind every popular author, you can find 100 other writers whose books will never sell. Behind them are another 100 who haven't found publishers. And behind them are another 100 whose unfinished manuscripts gather dust in drawers. And behind each one of these are 100 people who dream of, one day, writing a book. You, however, hear of only the successful authors and fail to recognize how unlikely literary success is. And it's called survivorship bias because the only examples we see of success are the few who survive. And that small number who do succeed turn around and give the advice to follow your passion because that's what they happen to do, but so did the millions of people who failed. And the difference is the failures don't get interviewed. If they did, we might equate following your passion with failure. A person who focuses only on their intrinsic goals will likely not achieve extrinsic goals. Because there's not a guaranteed causal relationship between the two, they might be waiting around to be discovered forever. And by the way, I've never met anyone like that. On the other hand, with only the extrinsic goals, you might never get around to making anything. If on an intrinsic level, you don't enjoy playing guitar every day, you'll be at a serious disadvantage against those guitarists who do. So I believe that in general, a creative career requires both intrinsic and extrinsic goals. It's like if you only paddle on one side of the canoe, you're going to go in circles, and it is much better to go in triangles. Intrinsic or extrinsic, there's nothing wrong with either type of goal, of course. At different times, in different situations, for different projects, we might find ourselves motivated by a mixture of them. Now, here's my advice for setting goals. Number 1, be reasonable and specific. Quantify it. For instance, the extrinsic goal of, I want a lot of people to read my book, is way too vague and will probably lead to open-ended anxiety. Trust me, I spent years in that state. I would do a thing and then feel like, something's supposed to happen now, right? Come on, I did a thing. Why isn't something happening? So get it clear and write it down. Try to come up with a number, whatever that number ends up being. According to Wikipedia, Carl Sagan's Cosmos has sold over 5 million copies. But the average book through a traditional publisher seems to sell between 1,000 and 10,000 copies, depending on who you ask. And that also means that most books are going to sell far less, considering the behemoth bestsellers at the top that sell millions. It's a tough business, so don't expect to sell books by the truckload on Amazon. Even the book literally titled How to Sell Books by the Truckload on Amazon is only the 256,724th best-selling book on Amazon. But you should look at comparable books and consider how well they sold. Is there a realistic market for your book? If your subject is obscure, can you expect to sell a lot of books? Maybe yes, maybe no. But this is not something you can actually control. They're more like expectations or preferences. Instead of focusing on those vague desires, I recommend that you, number 2, set goals you can control. For instance, you can't control how many copies of your book will sell, unless you sneak into bookstores and buy all the copies yourself. What? I've never done that. But as an author, you can do these things. Make a book trailer, host virtual events, hold online contests, send your books to press, ask bloggers for reviews, write your own blogs on the topic, make YouTube videos about the book, anything that helps you reach your intended audience. And if you get a book deal, these are standard book publishing activities you will be expected to do. But you could also try something that no one else has done before. I don't know what that thing would be, but definitely try it. And by the way, be specific about all of these book publicity activities. Instead of get reviews, make your goal instead, I'm going to contact 25 of the top people who write about this subject and send them my book by the end of the week. Make a spreadsheet and work through them. When you're done, add a check mark and write done in all caps, and go buy yourself a vegan chocolate chip cookie. I mean, at the end of the day, not for each line, unless you want your body to be shaped like the vegan Carl King. Most importantly, if you're going the extrinsic route, think long and hard before you even write a book. Is this a book a lot of people are craving? Is there a pre-existing audience? Are you really helping anyone out there? And if not, you're going to have an uphill battle. Hat tip to Cal Newport and Seth Godin, who both talk a lot about this. Then again, sometimes audiences don't know what they really want until they see it. So you can't always count on working backwards from what seems like it's going to be popular. And if you're only in it for the art, just make whatever the heck you want. Okay, that's it for this week's Motivational Creative Career Motivation of the Week. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe and send us burritos. And support the creation of more of these by joining my Patreon for $1 or $5 a month. That's patreon.com/Carl King.